Hi, welcome to the Fit and Healthy Today show. And today our topic matter is kidney stones. And for some reason, this seemed to be more prevalent in the last couple of weeks, so that's why I picked this topic. Kidney stones and kidney inflammatory issues, which if I have an opportunity to do a little bit further research, we'll probably do on our next topic. I'm seeing a lot of kidney failures. Kidney stones, they're accumulation of mineral salts. Usually about 80% of them are calcium oxalate stones. And what they are is they're little calcium crystals that collect in the kidneys, and with time the body tries to expel them, and they come through the urinary tract, and they're crystals. So they dice and they slice and they cut. So as a result, extremely painful. Well, depending on how large the stone can be. I mean, the stone can be as big as the tip of your finger here, which is a pretty large and can actually block the urinary tract flow, which then under those circumstances it becomes very, very dangerous. Most of them are very small. There can be multiple amounts. You can have one or two. It's about 50% more common for men to have them than women. And about anywhere from 8 to 10% of the population will suffer from kidney stones sometime in their lifetime. I have a local physician that calls this, for men, a man's way of having a baby. Extremely painful as it slices and dices and cuts when it comes down. So symptoms obviously are going to be pain, a frequent urge to urinate. Remember, urge to urinate can also mean a bladder or kidney type of infection. Blood and sediment in the urine. You can find sand. Sometimes when the kidneys expel these stones, they can be sand-like in property. It's a very good idea if you suspect you have kidney stones to pee in a strainer. I know that sounds extremely odd, but that's the way that we can find out what type of kidney stones you have and the way to prevent them. Like I mentioned before, 80% of them tend to be these calcium oxalate types of mineral deposits. But it can also be phosphates, which we get a lot from sodas, uric acid levels, cysteine levels, which can be very genetic in how you process certain amino acids. Nausea and vomiting, I mean rolling on the ground pain, and I can remember somebody that I know begging for morphine who never would ever use a painkiller in the past when he had kidney stones. Chills and fever, particularly if there's any infection of one of those stones getting lodged in the urethra tract or anywhere in the urinary tract. The causes, and these are ever increasing, kidney stones or sufferers of kidney stones. With our influx of junk food that we do so much of, and a lot of heavy red meats and poor quality red meats, lots of fat and junk, it makes the body extremely acidic by nature. And the body will pull calcium out of the bones to neutralize the pH of all these acids, and that excess calcium can settle in the kidneys. Dehydration, when people don't drink enough water. A lot of us, I catch my own self. Sometimes I'm not the best water drinker when I get busy. And then, of course, that pH, when the pH of the urine is at a certain point, those stones can form much more readily. Allergies or food sensitivities, which mean you're inflamed. When you're more inflamed, you're going to have a more acidic pH in the body, so the body will have to pull more of that calcium in order to neutralize the pH. Infections, obesity, inactivity, because obviously if the kidneys and the body's not moving or jumping or nothing's rolling along, those stones will tend to form and collect. This you'll sometimes see kidney stones are in the family, and actually my son has them as well as his father had them, and so inherited inability to absorb calcium properly because they're excreting too much of it as oxalic acid. So magnesium, and we'll talk about that further, magnesium-rich foods will tend to prevent some of that formation of that, but it can be very, very hereditary. And the inability to utilize magnesium or absorb magnesium, as well as vitamin B6, can be problematic as well from a hereditary standpoint. Metabolic disorders, cancer treatments, certain types of diuretic drugs, hyperthyroidism or parathyroidism. That means where you're going to have a high blood calcium level. And so if you have a high blood calcium level, you're going to tend to form more of those stones. So when you're looking at your prescription drugs and your diuretic or certain high blood pressure medications, pay attention, because obviously if you're having that potential for having kidney stones, you're going to need to supplement with those type of electrolyte minerals that can replenish or balance out the excessive amount or loss of those minerals and the excessive amount of calcium as a result. The testing techniques, besides, well, obviously you're collecting it in the strainer, your doctor can test what kind of stones you're having. And if it's, if it's phosphate-based, if it's other materials, most of them, like I said, 80% are calcium oxalate stones. It'll give him an idea of what to do to counteract that, what certain types of foods to avoid, or that maybe we may have some contributing factors on the part of your medications as well, too. X-rays and ultrasounds, CT scans can tell us if we have one of those lodged. Obviously, CT scans are going to be pretty expensive. And there's a wonderful $10,000 treatment that can zap them and destroy them, and that's if you've got the medical insurance and you've got coverage for it. Most insurance policies don't cover for that particular zapping of your kidney stones. They just assume you're going to pass them with massive amounts of painkillers. I'll list some diet and supplements that can help you with both prevention and in dissolving those stones, which I have personally used on my son, my 24-year-old son. And then vitamin and mineral analysis as well, too. Are you magnesium deficient? Are you low in B6? These types of things obviously can cause an imbalance, which can cause you to collect more of these types of stones. Heavy metal exposure, particularly cadmium. Those people who work in industries, there's a high cadmium level, or obviously if you have a lot of Chinese sheetrock in your home, what can I say, or you chew on a lot of Chinese toys, or you've collected cadmium or those heavy metals in your body. That can also prevent the utilization of magnesium and give you a real mineral imbalance with your calcium, which can also contribute to these stones or the other material types of stones that can form. These heavy metals can be binding agents, and they'll bind to certain types of minerals that you would normally utilize, and it'll settle in the kidneys. So your doctor can perform these types of testings to make a determination about what course of action to do, more in prevention than anything else. Okay. Now, this is a diet that you can use also for prevention, but oh boy, if you suspect you have kidney stones, I would immediately switch over, or if your family has a propensity towards that. But we need lots of water. Normally, as a result, we're drinking about a glass of water. We're supposed to be drinking a glass of water about every 2 to 2.5 hours. This, obviously, we're going to be adding in about 50% more water during the day. You're going to eat a diet high in alkali-producing fresh veggies, whole grains, and very high-quality plant protein and lean white meat. There is a propensity, and the studies have supported, that higher fat meats, particularly red meat, contribute, especially when you do them all the time, contribute to kidney stone formation. They increase inflammation, not just for kidney stones, but for arthritis and a lot of other things. But they increase inflammation, and anytime you increase inflammation, you're going to have a greater propensity for kidney stones. So, lots of alkali-producing raw veggies. You can even juice them if you'd like to. Lemon juice with hot water is a good thing to maybe do first thing in the morning. You think, oh, lemon juice is an acid, but when lemon juice gets in the body, it's an alkaline agent, and it helps the body. When you're alkaline, obviously you're not going to be pulling calcium out of your bones to neutralize your pH, so lemon water is helpful. Juicing, as I mentioned before, and that would be celery. I know they say not to do spinach, but obviously when you're juicing, you're not going to have as great a propensity for oxalates as well. There's some mixed reviews on studies about food contributing to kidney stones. In the old days, they used to say, oh, if you've got kidney stones, don't drink milk. But there's some brand new studies, I believe they were out of Harvard, that say, we're not so sure about that. So what I tell people is if you do drink milk, make sure you take a magnesium supplement with it. I graduated from Cal Poly and used to have a dairy, and milk is an excellent source of protein and calcium lactate forms, but it's a very poor source of magnesium. It's really not very balanced for humans. So if you're going to drink a lot of milk, make sure you take some magnesium citrate to go along with it to balance it, and then I don't think you have too much to worry about. So obviously if you have a propensity towards stones or you've got stones, you're going to get rid of all sugar, red meat, processed foods, salt, caffeine, alcohol, soda. Last week Ralph mentioned, or 2 weeks ago, Ralph mentioned something about sodium nitrate meats and how much issue contributing to heart attacks, and well, we know other things as well too. Diabetes, inability to oxygenate for COPD, lots of things sodium nitrates contribute to. So you're going to want to obviously get rid of all those types of processed meats, processed foods, anything that can make you be acidic. You know, you can go online and you can look up alkali producing foods and acid producing foods, and you just avoid those acid producing foods, particularly when you have kidney stones. Okay, supplement-wise, I kind of put these in the order of what I thought was the most important, because obviously most of us have a budget, and so that being the case, keeping within the budget, there's some people, I mean, for me, I do 3/4 of these already for other things, because obviously in natural medicine, things kind of work synergistically very well together. Work for one thing, work for a lot of different things. So, magnesium citrate prevents the formation of those calcium crystal stones. 250 milligrams, probably twice a day. If you can only get 200 milligrams, I do that 2 to 3 times a day. So we're probably wanting between 400 to 600 milligrams of magnesium citrate. If you take too much magnesium citrate, and how you know this is your bowels will get very loose. But there are some people who have such a poor magnesium absorption level that they have to do substantially more. So you're going to have to see what works for you. But once you reach that point where your bowels are pretty loose, then you're going to probably want to back off and not take quite as much. So once again, it's also a natural laxative too, but it binds to the calcium, and actually magnesium helps calcium absorb into the bones as well too. So that unnecessary calcium that's settling in your kidneys, hey, let's put it to good use and let's get it on your bones in combination with a little bit of extra vitamin D. There's so much studies out on vitamin D, but vitamin D, believe it or not, since it aids calcium absorption into the bones, once again, can help with prevention of kidney stone formation. But magnesium citrate can also help eat up these little stones. So remember, it's a binding agent. So if we can get magnesium in there, we can bind to it, those little small pebbles, and we can get them to kind of go away and disintegrate. B6, I would say, based upon the studies that I was reading, that probably close to 50% of people are B6 deficient in the United States. And when you're B6 deficient, I could go into the complicated explanation as to why it contributes to stone formation, but when you don't have adequate amounts of B6, you'll form kidney stones. So 50 milligrams, so if you're taking like a B50 complex or a good multiple that has high amounts of B vitamins, you're going to be okay for the prevention of kidney stones. Vitamin K. Once again, now if you're on blood thinners, a lot of doctors are going, yeah, with vitamin K, but there's some new studies out on vitamin K that basically say, hey, we can normalize, we can prevent blood clots with the blood thinners, but we can help normalize the body's ability to clot and unclot with vitamin K at the same time as we take Coumadin. But if you're on Coumadin or blood thinners, you want to talk to your doctor before taking vitamin K. But vitamin K, once again, inhibits those calcium stones because it aids the absorption of calcium into the bones, nerves, and muscle fibers. So, once again, these are things that work for other things, primarily on bones as well, too. Potassium electrolytes, particularly if you're perspiring a lot, you're a heavy sweater, or you're on a diuretic, you need additional amounts of potassium and electrolytes. Now, it's a fine line. Some doctors, especially if you're on a diuretic, will put you on a potassium, and I don't like necessarily the kind they're using in the medicine terms, but potassium chlorides to help balance that, which actually potassium chloride can contribute to kidney stones. So I kind of suggest that you do like a potassium citrate if you find that your potassium levels are running low. IP6, now IP6 we tend to use in cancer treatments and for other immune types of things. It has the most research. But it had a university studies, 120 milligrams a day, reduce those calcium oxalate stone formations. Vitamin A. Now, everybody's always like panicking about vitamin A, but a good portion of our country is vitamin A deficient. Okay? And when you're vitamin A deficient, your body will tend to form those stones. In addition, your ability to fight infection goes boom, 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 boom. And if you're an extremely white woman from Northern Europe, your ability to use beta-carotene sources like carrots drops substantially. Dandelion tea or uva ursi cleanse the kidneys, and actually uva ursi was shown to reduce pain while you have kidney stones, so that can help kind of flush those out. I have physicians that recommend that. Vitamin C lowers the incidence of kidney stones, but not in excess of about 4,000 to 6,000 milligrams per day, and it needs to be that mineral ascorbate type of ester C. Other things I've mentioned down on here have to do with minerals, amino acids. They can help prevent stone absorption. Your zinc, copper, more so than anything else actually, for prostate as well too, can help with that balance and combination. And you tend to find those kind of levels, maybe not quite that high, in a good multivitamin. And then there are some stone breaker formulas out there. Don't have much time to go into all the details on those, that can also help with breaking up those stones that we see out there. And you can go into any good health food store and you'll probably see them on there, and they'll stay stone free or stone breaker. And those can aid and abet the breakup of stones, in addition to like magnesium and the diet stuff. The thing is, get the pH right, make it to where those stones don't form, and then you're not going to be in the hospital screaming up and down asking for morphine. Anyway, I hope that helps for all you sufferers out there. We're going to be moving on to the next portion of our show, which is the fitness portion. Thank you. Hi, welcome to the fitness portion of our show. And I've been getting the swimsuit wearers, old and young, asking me for exercise of what they can do to help tone some of their, what we call quadricep muscles, okay? And to give them a little bit of separation in between. Now you're looking at very untanned legs. Sorry about that, but at least I can show you the exercise, and I think it could be very helpful if you want to tone up. We used to use these before I would do my natural bodybuilding shows in order to cut up and show separation between the muscles, so any age group can do it, and it's safe for those people that have back problems as well, so you don't have that weight on the back. A sissy squat, you're going to stand with your feet about shoulder width apart. We don't want them too far out, too far in, because it puts strain on the back. Grab something secure, a chair, a table, something that's not going to move on you. Hopefully this table doesn't move. And what you do basically is you bring down very gradually while my toes are coming up. Okay, see that? You're going to bring down, and the back stays very, very straight while I'm doing this. Okay, see? I'm not going like this, or I'm not going like that. I'm keeping it very straight. Well, I come up very slowly, and I tighten my butt, and I tighten my front legs. And you do that for as many reps as you can, and hold it up and down, and go down probably to where your legs are reaching about probably about a 90-degree angle, back up again, and squeeze tight. If you do those like every other day for about 10 repetitions a couple of times, you will notice after about 6 weeks some nice little separation in the legs. I sure hope that helps. Next, we're going to be moving on to the research portion of our show. Thank you. Welcome to the research portion of our show, and with us today with the latest news is Ralph Turchiano. Ralph?
Well, thank you for that intro. Well, it wasn't that long ago, on June 11th, 2009, that there was an interesting quote by Dr. Margaret Chan of the World Health Organization, otherwise known as the WHO. The director of the General World Health Organization announced to the world's media, quote, unquote, "I have conferred with leading influenza experts, virologists, public health officials, in line with procedures set out in the international health regulations. I have sought guidance and advice from an emergency committee established for this purpose. On the basis of available evidence and these expert assessments of the evidence, the scientific criteria for an influenza pandemic have been met. The world is now at the start of the 2009 influenza pandemic." Well, this one goes on to snake oil salesmen and quacks. And what is that saying? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Well, the swine flu conspiracy had struck again. This one, the credit goes to the British Medical Journal, especially reporters Deborah Cohen and Philip Carter of the BMJ. If you get a chance to check it out, please do. But this is what they say. These conflicts of interest have never been publicly disclosed by the World Health Organization, and the World Health Organization has dismissed inquiries into the handling of the H1N1 pandemic as conspiracy theories. What conspiracy theories? What conflicts of interest? Who in the world would take a gamble with the life of your child or loved ones around you by injecting you with a vaccine that has not been proven for a disease that is not there in its essence? What they said, quote, 1 year on, after governments took the advice from the WHO, are unwinding their vaccine contracts at billions of dollars worth of stockpiled drugs such as Tamiflu and influenza, bought from their health budgets and the tight constraints, lies and used in warehouses around the world. Well, the BMJ would also tell you that influenza and Tamiflu were never approved by FDA advisory committees for the use of this viral strain. Yet the FDA overrode their advisory committees and approved it anyways. By the way, a lot of Tamiflu and influenza have side effects such as total organ shutdown, which happened to be one of the things that killed people during the swine flu, but again, blamed on the swine flu. A joint investigation of the BMJ and the Bureau of Investigative Journalism has uncovered evidence that raises troubling questions in how the WHO managed conflicts of interest among the scientists who advised its pandemic planning, and about the transparency of the science underlying its advice to governments. Was it appropriate for the WHO to take advice from experts who had declarable financial and research ties with pharmaceutical companies producing antivirals, Tamiflu, influenza, and influenza vaccines, swine flu? Why was key World Health Organization guidance authored or written by an influenza expert who had received payment for work from Roche manufacturers and GlaxoSmithKline, again, influenza, and Tamiflu? And why does the composition of the emergency committee for which Dr. Margaret Chan, the head of the World Health Organization, sought guidance remain a secret, only known to those in the WHO? We are left wondering whether major public health organizations are able to effectively manage the conflicts of interest inherent in the medical science. Well, Margaret Cho basically responded by saying, hey, you guys are accusing us, and she said this to the CDC. Remember, another major pusher of the H1N1 vaccine, a vaccine, again, unproven for the swine flu at this time. Says, they're saying that basically they are claiming, I should say, that we declared a fake pandemic on the advice of experts with ties to pharmaceutical industries and something personal to gain from the industry profits. Of course, that was Dr. Margaret Chan mocking the investigation from the British Medical Journal, which amazingly, to take into light, was this. What consisted of pandemic? Well, silently, 1 month prior to there being a pandemic declared, the World Health Organization in May of 2009 dropped from its requirements for a pandemic being declared, saying, quote unquote, enormous numbers of deaths and illnesses, basically leaving it up to fairly corrupt individuals with conflicts of interest to declare a pandemic anytime, any way they want, and any way they see fit. So, basically, some of the outcomes of the pandemic, as illustrated in the report, have been dramatic distortions of priorities of public health services all over Europe, wastes of huge sums of public money, provocation of unjustified fears among Europeans and the U.S., creation of health risks through vaccines and medications which have not been sufficiently tested before being authorized in fast-track procedures, all are examples of the outcomes of the World Health Organization's power-hungry megalomania. These results need to be critically examined by public health officials and authorities at all levels, especially a lot of those politicians which seem to fall for a hook, line, and sinker. And also, too, in regards to the media inside the United States, which allowed itself to be deceived and never investigated 1 second what they were being told by the CDC and the WHO. So, from the top down, from the presidency on down to your basic lowest level civil servants, They expect us to follow blindly. For 1 year later, after all the people had side effects from medications that may have died from reactions to drugs or vaccines, now they come out with this. My hats are off to the British Medical Journal. I'm not going to finish the report. It's a long report, but if you're interested in validating what I'm saying, go to the British Medical Journal. It's an open public forum. You can read the research and the articles there. All right, now something else that you can do on your own. In an article called Peaches, Plums, in which Peaches and Plums, what they found out they did is they induced, in their words, deliciously promising death of breast cancer cells. This is from Texas AgriLife, where they did the research and also published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry. What they said basically in regards to chemo, as far as being paralleled with certain what's called phenolic compounds and chlorogenic and neochlorogenic compounds from peaches and plums, was this. Well, chemo kills all cells. Well, the compounds in peaches and plums killed just the defective cells, the cancer cells. In fact, to quote them, here there is a 5-fold difference in toxic intensity. You can put it at a level where it will kill the cancer cells, the very aggressive ones, and not the normal ones, just by peaches and plums. They also said this is a very, very attractive from the point of view of being an alternative to typical chemotherapy, which kills normal cells along with the cancerous ones, the doctor said. The team said laboratory tests also confirmed that the compounds prevented cancer from growing in animals. Pretty cool. Peaches and plums, something to think about. All right, now to fat, or fighting fat. This came in the ACS Journal of Proteome Research. What they found out from capsaicin, especially something which is really taken from cayenne, laboratories have hinted that capsaicin may help fight obesity. What they discovered in animal models was this. The capsaicin-treated animals lost 8% of their body weight and showed change in levels of at least 20 key proteins found in fat. These altered proteins work to break down fats. So, if you're looking for a little bit of dieting and reducing that body fat down, look at your cayenne and capsaicin. It's pretty potent, and it's also been validated. Moving right along, kind of fast here. All right. When people go to cancer screening, remember we talked before about a lot of false positives. Well, if you're doing a blood sugar lowering medication, especially if you're going in for a PET scan, they discovered that basically 60% of the people on blood sugar lowering medications will test positive for cancers they do not have. Primary reason, the blood sugar lowering medications cause a lot of cells to take up those sugars and also the dyes involved in the PET scan as much as you would normally look for detecting a cancer cell. Just something to look at. Had to run through it pretty fast, but thank you very much for your time on this.
Thank you very much, Ralph. Appreciate it. Lots of good research out there. Research for yourself. Take charge of your health. Thank you very much.